What do you think it was with Nancy? Do you think it was just a power trip? Like, if you had to analyze it and be like, okay, who was she as a person? She's obviously in this abusive system, but she's also put up in a position of power.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel like all of that kind of played out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always want to be really kind of careful how I talk about this stuff. I mean, obviously she was put in a position of power and she gained a lot. I know that she was abused too, but I'll just say, like, across the board, there were some people who, like, even within that system, you could feel their goodness and that they really cared, and you could feel their heart. And even though maybe they did some things that were bad, it's like, but this person, you know, does care. And then there were other people, like, without saying who, that I do think loved the power.
Mm-hmm.
And those were the ones that actually got the power and that were put in those positions generally. Not everyone, but for the most part, the people who ended up, like, committing those crimes and doing those things were people that I believe loved the power.
Yeah.
And had, like, a narcissistic streak themselves.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Did your relationship with Mark change and evolve as both of you descended, and I use that word specifically, into the NXIVM mindset? Did it change negatively, or were you always pretty strong?
It was always pretty strong.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it really was a strong connection throughout. And of course, like, actually, I would say the hardest part was after we escaped and just trying to deal with the insane trauma and the fight trying to get law enforcement involved. And we just, both having PTSD, definitely led to stressful times of, like, we were just both struggling so much. But that connection was always there, and that was real. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Before we talk about your awakening, looking back, what do you think was the hardest part for you in NXIVM? Maybe it's like physical demands, emotional, mental.
Right. I forget about the physical, but actually that's a lot of what I deal with still. There was this program called Ultima that came around in, like, 2013. So the last few years I was, you know, building out this Ultima program that was like yoga and acting and all those things. And they get you with the thing that you love. So that's how they drew me in. I was like, yeah, let's do, like, acting and arts and, you know, spirituality, all these things. But the demands of that just got so intense that I mean, I was working like 23 hours a day often.
How is that possible?
I mean, your body starts to break down and, like, you have meltdowns everywhere because you just can't even think straight. And, you know, it affected my body in terms of blood sugar and, like, tons of cortisol, obviously. So I would start getting panic attacks that it's hard to say if it was like an emotional panic attack or just body breakdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I had a lot of vitality before that. And that just, talk about burnout. I mean, I hope that I get that vitality back at some point, but that takes a toll to have years of working like that.
And were you still acting in Hollywood in any capacity?
No. So at one point, actually, I guess it was like a few years in or a couple of years in, I wanted to go and act. And I made a plan. I was like, I'm going back to LA. And I was going to go, like, stay with my friend. And I think, like, I had a couple of ins with potential agents, casting agents and stuff. And Mark was back and forth, so that would be fine. We were like, I'll just be there. You come and go.
Yeah.
And then I was excited about it, but then I went on a walk with Keith. And it was one of those, like, 2 a.m. walks where, you maybe heard about them. A lot of the girls, actually, and Mark would get these 2 a.m. walks.
Yeah.
And he pretty much, in that conversation, led me to believe that that would be spiritual death, to go back there and pursue acting. He was like, basically, you're still flawed. Like, you've still got issues. And why don't you just work on that and then you can go and do that? And I left that conversation feeling like I can't leave. And so I didn't. I went in deeper then. And I was, like, pursuing things a little bit, like doing some short films in New York City. And it always came, like, there'd be, like, a comment that would come back from Keith. Like, what's Bonnie doing? Like, doing these short films, like, kind of like a ridiculing. So I did stop, like, pursuing that kind of stuff.
Do you feel like those conversations and those digs made you question your love for acting or resent it even?
Definitely question. Yeah. Because it would be kind of, like, framed in the way of, like, you're attached. You've got an attachment. So you're spiritually attached, meaning you're not free. So if you want to like evolve and like work towards enlightenment, then you need to break through every attachment, which then included every passion.
Yeah,
right?
every hobby.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, he's starting an acting class.
Right. So he was
So-
using my passion, but he was like, but if you do it over here, then that's going to be like integrated and ethical and like all the things. So you have to do it with us. But anything else is an attachment. Yeah. And we did start to see this, like both Mark and I over the years. We did start to cotton on of like, so it's okay for them to keep us here. But if we do the same thing out in the world, then like we're not allowed to, kind of thing. We did start to see that.
Oh man, it's so crazy the ways that they can manipulate and twist. And when you're in it, it makes sense. You're like, oh yeah, Hollywood is dark and I don't want to go back to Hollywood, but I love
Yeah.
acting, so I'll do it here. And so that's what's so insidious about these cult leaders and these narcissists. As we know, we talked all about the narcissist playbook with Mark,
Yeah.
where they figure out how to make it make sense somehow. And then when you leave, you're like, none of that made sense. What was I thinking?
Right. There's a logical framework that you pick up and you start to learn. It's the doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you make sense of everything in your head. So anything that you experience, you run through the doctrine. That all makes sense. Even if you're getting gut feelings of like, this isn't okay. It's like, but because of this, it is.
Yes. It's the loopholes that they create. So when you ultimately run up against it, they're like, oh, but this thing. And you're like, oh, right.
It's explained away and it's always your fault. And then if you get defensive, then you've got more problems and you won't progress and it's all your fault.
Yeah. What about your family during all of this? Did they catch on to anything? They try to warn you or?
I think my mum was cautious. She came to our wedding, which was in Albany, and she was checking things out. And she questioned a few things. I think she sent an email to Mark at one point questioning something. But it didn't land that well. I think she tried a little bit. But she was just very unconditional. Like, for the most part, my parents were just really accepting.
Yeah.
Which actually was good, I think. I mean, if they understood more of what a cult was, they probably could have like really tried to get me out. But at least the love was there.
Yeah.
And when I left, I felt like I was supported.
That's good. A soft place to land. You never
Not by
felt
my
judged.
whole family, but my mum and dad, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this moment then when the consciousness came online and you just couldn't unsee it.
Yeah. So it was right after that gaslighting from Nancy, and like seeing problems with Allison and my body starting to break down and just like starting to hit a rock bottom, that I started listening to my intuition again, which was very defiant. Like you weren't allowed to do that. The intuition, like any talk of intuition was ridiculed.
Isn't that interesting? Because the whole point was to get to this sort of enlightenment, even if they didn't use that word, right? It was supposed to get to this state of peace and pure joy, but also you're not allowed to feel joy, according to Mark. He was like, you can't really feel joy or else they say you're being too attached. So I'm like, what's the point? What are we actually working towards here? Right.
It was very confusing. Yeah. But yeah, you weren't really, like intuition was really poo-pooed, like, because it was very much about data. What's the data?
Yeah.
Which didn't always hold up anyway, but that was the argument. And so if you had a feeling about something, that was your lack of integration and your attachment. So you couldn't go by any feelings, which basically cuts off your gut completely. And so I started listening to like spiritual podcasts and reading spiritual books, which apparently was frowned upon too, because Mark would say to Keith that like Bonnie's reading this or something or taking this little course. And it was always like, why? So that was blocked in a way. But I really, it sunk in deeply that I needed to start listening to my intuition. And so I did. And that led me to 10 days of basically canceling plans and meditating. So just going in, just on my own. And kind of like, I would say actually really starting to be loving with myself and like holding a loving space for myself to like feel all the things and going into, I don't know how like esoteric you want to get, but in my meditations I'd found like an abyss. So emptiness, like nothingness, that was scary just because it was so vast. And I started to just go into that and soften into that. And on the 8th day, suddenly it was like complete relaxation and just peace, like nothing fancy, just like, like freedom. but then I went to sleep and I woke up and had a massive Kundalini awakening.